welcome to the Anatomy Couple. Today we'll be dissecting the innervation patterns of upper limb muscles through the lens of the brachial plexus. This knowledge is foundational not only for anatomy exams but also for interpreting nerve injuries in clinical practice. The brachial plexus arises from the anterior rami of the spinal nerve C5 to T1. It passes between the anterior and middle scalene muscles, through the cervical axillary canal, and into the axilla. The axilla is located close to the pectoralis minor muscle. From there, it branches into the peripheral nerves that innervate the entire upper limb. And if you would like to learn how to draw the brachial plexus fast, you're more than welcome to watch my previous video on how to draw the brachial plexus starting with 3 simple lines. But I'll quickly show you the classic breakdown here. Brachial plexus is made up of roots, trunks, divisions, cords, and branches. So here we have C5 to T1 as roots. For trunks, we have 3. UT as in upper trunk, MT as in middle trunk, finally LT as in lower trunk. Now we can move on to the divisions. The divisions are not labeled here, but I can show you the 3 posterior divisions and 3 anterior divisions. So starting with posterior divisions, 1, 2, 3. Then for the anterior divisions, goes like this: 1, 2, and 3. Now, once we identify all the divisions, we can group them up in order to form the cords. So for the cords, we have 3 cords. First one is the lateral cord, and then posterior cord. Lastly, we have the medial cord. The medial cord, it is named in relation to the axillary artery. So we know that the axillary artery is medial to our body, and that is why medial cord has been given its name instead of lower cord, if it makes sense. Now we can move on to the terminal branches. So we have the 5 terminal nerves, starting with the musculocutaneous nerve coming from the lateral cord. And then we have the axillary nerve coming from the posterior cord. And then we have the radial nerve coming from the posterior cord as well. And then the infamous median nerve comes from the lateral cord and medial cord joined together. Lastly, we have the ulnar nerve, comes from the medial cord. Now let's connect all these terminal nerves to their motor targets. So first, let's look at the musculocutaneous nerve. This nerve originates from the roots C5 and C7, and if you recall, it is coming from the lateral cord and the anterior division. So it innervates the anterior arm muscles, such as the bicep brachii, the brachialis, and the coracobrachialis. In addition to that, it also provides the sensory innervation to the lateral forearm, right here. Next, let's look at the axillary nerve. Axillary nerve originates from the roots C5 and C6, and it comes from the posterior division. This nerve innervates the deltoid and teres minor. If you look at the picture over here, we can only see part of the deltoid originating from the spine of the scapula. And the teres minor is located just inferior to the infraspinatus muscle. The axillary nerve passes through the quadrangular space and circumflexes around the surgical neck of the humerus. And this proximity makes the axillary nerve the perfect candidate to supply the innervation to those 2 muscles. The radial nerve follows a complex anatomical course from the axilla to the hand, traveling through the arm and forearm while supplying motor and sensory branches along the way. This nerve originates from C5 and T1, and it comes from the posterior division. Therefore, it innervates all posterior arm muscles such as tricep brachii, anconeus, and brachial radialis. In addition to the posterior arm muscles, it also innervates the forearm extensor muscles. So the radial nerve exits the axilla and enters the posterior compartment of the arm through the lower triangular space right here, bordered by the teres major, the long head of the tricep brachii, and the humerus itself. Now let's take a look at the median nerve. The median nerve originates from the roots C5 and T1, and it is formed by the contributions from two chords of the brachial plexus, if you recall. The first chord is lateral chord, and the second chord is the medial chord. The median nerve courses from the axilla to the hand, passing through the arm, elbow, forearm, and carpal tunnel. It innervates most of the flexor muscles in the forearm, which is the anterior compartment of the forearm, as well as the intrinsic hand muscles such as thenar eminence and lateral lumbricals. So going back to the anterior compartment of the forearm muscles, we have two exceptions. So the first exception is FCU, which stands for flexor carpi ulnaris, and the half of the FDP. FDP is flexor digitorum profundus. So flexor carpi ulnaris is innervated by the ulnar nerve. Median nerve does provide innervation to the flexor digitorum profundus, but only to the half of the muscle. And the second half is innervated by the ulnar nerve. Here, I have provided you the mnemonic for the thenar muscles innervated by the median nerve. So we have LOAF. L stands for lateral lumbricals, mostly just the lateral two lumbricals. O stands for opponent's pollicis. For opponent's pollicis, we really can't see it from this picture because it is the muscle directly underneath the abductor pollicis brevis. So next we have A. A stands for abductor pollicis brevis, which is right here. And lastly, F stands for flexor pollicis brevis, right here. Okay, finally, down to the last nerve, the ulnar nerve. This nerve originates from the roots C8 and T1. It arises from the medial cord and travels down the arm to the hand, providing motor innervation to the intrinsic hand muscles and sensory innervation to the little finger and half of the ring finger. So the ulnar nerve innervates flexor carpi ulnaris, the medial half of the flexor digitorum profundus, the hypothenar muscles, interossei, medial lumbricals, and finally the adductor pollicis. So going back to the hypothenar, hypothenar actually refers to a group of muscles located on the medial aspect of the palm. So it's almost near the base of the little finger. These muscles form the hypothenar eminence, and this is very crucial for precision grip and hand cupping. So any damage to the ulnar nerve might lead to weakness, atrophy, and loss of fine motor control. Okay, here's a quick quiz for you guys. You're more than welcome to leave your answers in the comment box down below. And thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.